Welcome to the Explainer. Have you ever really stopped to think about what happens after you swallow a pill? It's not just some simple journey down to your stomach. Oh no, it is this fascinating, two-sided story about a medicine's journey and its destination. And today, we're going to break that story down.
See, it's not a one-way street. It's a really complex two-way conversation between that medicine and your body. It's kind of like a delicate dance of action and reaction that ultimately decides if a drug is going to help or if it's going to harm.
So, to make sense of this dance, pharmacologists split it into two main parts. First, you've got what your body does to the drug. We call this pharmacokinetics, or just PK for short. And the second part is the exact opposite, what the drug does to your body. And that, you guessed it, is pharmacodynamics, or PD.
All right, so let's start with pharmacokinetics. Let's follow that drug on the first leg of its pretty incredible expedition. This is all about how your body handles the medication from the very second it enters.
This whole process is so fundamental, it actually gets its own super simple but really powerful acronym, ADME. That's absorption, distribution, metabolism, and excretion. This is basically our roadmap for the drug's entire life inside your system.
The whole adventure kicks off with absorption. This is that critical first step where the drug has to, get out of its pill or capsule, make it across the wall of your gut, and then finally dive into your bloodstream to start its journey.
But hold on, right away, there's a huge hurdle for any medicine you take by mouth. Before it can go pretty much anywhere else, it's got to pass through the liver. And the liver, well, it's kind of like a bouncer at a club, and it can be really strict. It breaks down a good chunk of the drug before it can even get to the party. This is called the first pass effect, and for some drugs, it's so powerful that you literally can't take them as a pill at all.
Okay, so once the drug makes it past the liver and into the bloodstream, it's time for distribution. Now, you can think of your circulatory system as this super fast highway, and the drug is in a taxi, just zipping all around to different parts of the body, and most importantly, to its final destination, the exact spot where it needs to get to work.
So the drug has arrived. Now what? Well, this is where we switch gears from the journey, the PK part, to the moment of action. This is where pharmacodynamics, the PD side of things, takes over, and we finally get to see what the drug actually does.
Most drugs work by targeting these very specific molecules in our body called receptors. The easiest way to think about them is as tiny little locks on the surface of our cells. And the drug? The drug is the key. It has to be just the right shape to fit into that lock and make something happen.
But here's the thing. Not all keys do the same thing. An agonist is a drug that fits the lock and turns it, starting the engine, right? It activates the receptor. Think of an asthma inhaler opening up your airways. But then you have an antagonist. This key fits the lock, but it just sits there, blocking it, so the body's natural keys can't get in. A beta blocker that lowers blood pressure by blocking adrenaline is a perfect example.
Okay, let's talk about a drug's power. We use two really specific terms here that honestly get confused all the time: potency and efficacy. And trust me on this, they are absolutely not the same thing.
Potency is all about how much of the drug you need to get an effect. So if you look at drug C, it's the most potent, it works at the lowest dose. But efficacy is about the maximum possible effect a drug can have. So even though drug C is super potent, drug A has the highest efficacy. It produces the strongest response overall. And this is so important. The most potent drug is not always the most effective one.
All right, so the drug has done its job. Now what? We can't have it just hanging around in the body forever, right? So we circle right back to pharmacokinetics to see how the body handles the cleanup crew and gets the drug out of your system.
This brings us to the M in our ADME acronym, metabolism. And guess who the star player is again? Yep, the liver. It uses this whole team of powerful enzymes, like the famous cytochrome P450 system, to chemically change the drug. It's like a recycling plant that re-engineers the drug to make it more water-soluble, which just makes it way easier to flush out.
But metabolism isn't always about shutting things down. Some drugs are actually designed to be super clever. They're called prodrugs, and you take them in an inactive form. They're like these little secret agents that actually rely on the liver's metabolism to flip a switch and turn them on, activating them exactly where they need to be. Pretty cool, right?
And that brings us to the final step, excretion. The now transformed drug and all its byproducts are permanently kicked out of the body. Your kidneys do most of the heavy lifting here, filtering all that waste out of the blood and sending it on its way,
completing that ADME cycle and closing the loop.
So why does all of this matter? Why go through all of this detail? Well, this entire really elaborate process from absorption all the way to excretion is exactly what helps scientists and doctors figure out the perfect dose of a medicine for every single person.
And this is not a new idea. Almost 500 years ago, the physician Paracelsus absolutely nailed it when he said, "Only the dose makes the poison. The only thing that separates a cure from a poison is the amount."
The whole goal of dosing is to keep the drug's concentration inside what we call the therapeutic window. If it's too low, it's subtherapeutic. It's not going to do a thing. If it gets too high, it becomes toxic and can cause some serious harm. So we're always aiming for that sweet spot right there in the middle.
And here you can see that idea perfectly. The goal is to keep that drug level squarely in that green zone. That's where it's both safe for your body and doing its job effectively.
Now, to stay in that window, doctors have to know a drug's half-life. It sounds complicated, but it's really just the time it takes for your body to get rid of half of the drug. This is the key that tells us how often you need to take your next dose to stay in that perfect range and keep the drug working for you.
So let's say you take 100 milligrams of a drug. After one half-life, you've got 50 milligrams left. After a second half-life, 25 milligrams, and so on. A drug with a really short half-life, you got to take that more often than one with a super long half-life. It's why some pills you take just once a day, and others you have to take every 4 hours.
Okay, so let's do a super quick recap. Pharmacokinetics, or PK, is what your body does to the drug. That's the whole ADME journey. Pharmacodynamics, or PD, is what the drug does to your body, its action. And finding that perfect balance between the two, that's the real art and science of modern medicine.
This whole elegant interplay between a drug and your body is really at the very heart of how medicine works. It's a two-sided story of a body's complex systems and a drug's clever design. And understanding both sides is what lets us harness the incredible power of these medicines to heal. So really, the next time you take a pill, maybe you'll think about the incredible journey it's about to take and the amazing destination it's trying to reach.